Where are you fighting God for control in your life right now? If you're like me, if you're like most of us, there's an area or two at least where we're still fighting with God for control. It may be that God's calling you to let go of something. Maybe it's something bad. Maybe there's a sin in your life that God's calling you to let go. Maybe it's something good that you're holding on to, and he says, I've got something better for you, but you're going to have to trust me. You're going to have to let me rule. And we're fighting him for control. And so when we have those places in our lives where we're fighting God for control, we have to learn to let go and trust him.
And I wonder, you don't think that Satan wants to take some of you or all of you to captivity using the thing that you're afraid to let go? You think he doesn't want to keep you a slave to sin? It's time to give it up. All he has to do is let it go. And this is the paradox of the Christian faith, that freedom comes through surrender. Victory comes through submission. It's all backwards. It's different than what the world tells you. D.L. Moody says this: the world has yet to see what God will do with the man fully consecrated to him. Fear of surrender will keep you from finding freedom in Jesus. There's a video on YouTube. I've watched it dozens of times, but it's how to catch a baboon. And so it takes place in the jungles of Africa. There on the plain, there's a baboon and there's a guy who wants to catch it. And so what he does is he goes to the termite mound. Now, I didn't know this about termite mounds, but they're almost made out of concrete, really, really hard. And so he goes and he drills a hole in the termite mound, and the baboon's just watching him. They're really curious animals, evidently. And he takes this little silver trinket, like a little silver ball or bell or something, and he places it in the hole, and the baboon sees the whole thing go down. The man walks off, baboon climbs down the tree, walks up to the termite mound, puts his hand in, grabs it, but can't get his fist out, right? And so the man then walks up to the baboon, approaches the baboon. Baboon begins to go crazy. He starts squealing and screeching and flipping. It's like he's going to rip his arm off. He can't get his fist out. All he has to do is let it go. And the man just slips the noose around his neck and takes him to captivity.
What is it that you're trying to control that God wants you to surrender? Our God can do way more through your surrender than you can ever do through your control. He can do way more. That which is on your heart is always better in his hand. You don't always have the power to control, but you do always have the power to surrender. And I promise you, God can do way more through your surrender than you can ever do through your control.
Let go of the way you thought it was supposed to go. Let go. Sometimes it is a letting go that feels like death, but it's really a blessing. The blessing of letting go. Letting go.
Will you let God be God? Will you let God be God? But we've got to learn how to lose control. Honestly, I would much rather know that I've got a God who is awesome, who's mighty, who's powerful, who's great, who is indescribable, knowing that I have him be in control versus me having stuff in my hands and trying to control it. Because in my hands, I guarantee you I'm going to mess it up. But in his hands, it's going to be all right. Just trust God and let be what's going to be. Then I can reflect on the fact that, hey, if God be for me, then who in the world can be against me? And even though things don't look like how I want them to look, and even though I don't feel how I want to feel, and even though I don't got the most money in the bank, here's what I am going to do. I'm going to still remain faithful and obedient. because I know I can sit back, trust God, because if this is where he has me, then there must be something for me. One of the lessons that I learned was how to sit and trust. Sit and trust.
Because some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God.
Surrender means not my way, but God's way. I wonder what God would call you to surrender today. I wonder if God's already speaking to you and calling you to surrender something to him. And it's time to say to God, God, not my way, but your way. I surrender this to you. I'm going to be real and open and honest about this struggle, and I'm going to get through it with you. I'm not going to try to do it on my own anymore.
If you want to follow Jesus, if you're going to completely surrender to him, it requires saying, I'm going to give you everything. All of it. Jesus, I surrender my life to you. I give you all that I have and all I am. I trust you.
If I could hope for you to leave here this morning with one thing, it would be this: to start trusting God with things that you've been trusting yourself with. Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. That word trust in that verse basically comes from the meaning of putting your full weight on something. And if I know this will help you should write this down. Since God sees all, you can trust him with all of you. God sees your frustration. And I just tell you, you can trust him with all of you. God sees your health condition. You can trust him with all of you. God sees your mental health. You can trust him with all of you. God sees the challenging home dynamics. You can trust him with all of you. God sees the tension between your friendships. You can trust him with all of you. Keep praying to God because he sees you.
People will let you down. Companies will fail. The government won't keep its promises, but God will never let you down. God will never fail. No matter what you are going through or what you do go through, place your trust in Jesus. When you are in the middle of unimaginable circumstances and it feels like all hope is lost, trust in him. Cling to his word. Look at his track record. What he has done before, he can do again. He was faithful then, and he is faithful now. The Lord is faithful. He keeps his promises. You can trust him. We serve a promise-making, promise-keeping God who can do the impossible. You can trust him.
And
I want you to think of that, your biggest problem. Your biggest problem right now. You know, the thing that wakes you up in the middle of the night, the thing you wake up stressed about in the morning, the thing that you're biting your nails for, that you're constantly anxious about, that big problem that you don't see a solution for. You've got that pictured in your mind right now. Okay, now what I want you to do is come into that position of surrender where you're raising your hands and you're closing your eyes. Raise your hands like this. I surrender. And then I want you in your mind's eye to picture yourself walking up to the cross and laying that big problem down at the foot of the cross.